Welcome to this tutorial for the Year 9 Trinket Box project. Now this tutorial is to show you guys how to use the SketchUp for Schools app to basically design the project in a CAD format. This is a really good skill to learn and it's certainly one that we'll be developing over the course in the next 2 years. Okay, so SketchUp for Schools is an app that's available in the G Suite for Education. So if you can get yourself to a page similar to this, and we'll scroll down to the bottom and you'll find SketchUp for Schools down here. Now if it's not there, the other way you can get it is if you go to Drive, then up in here you go to your Google Apps waffle, and you can go down to the bottom of it and it's either there, or if it isn't, you can get it from the G Suite Marketplace. Okay, so let's open it up. Alright, so you'll get to a screen like this. Now if you've used it before, obviously you'll have some files here, or it will be a blank screen. In any case, we're going to create a new file, so we'll select up here and we'll select a simple template in millimeters. So we'll left click on that and then this screen will open up here. Now the guy is here for scale. We don't need him, so to get rid of him we can left click on him so we get this blue box around and then just press delete. Alright, so I'm not going to explain all of this to you at once. We'll just work our way through and you'll learn your skills as you go. But as you can see, there's a series of menus on either side of the screen, and we'll go through the features of these menus as we need to. Most of the features we'll be using today will be coming off this side of the screen here. Now your mouse, the best mouse to have is one with a left mouse click button, a right mouse click button, and a center mouse wheel. I'll explain the features of that as well. But I'll try to, as best I can, tell you whether I'm clicking on the left or the right mouse button or using the center mouse wheel. Okay, so here's our view. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw up the sides of our Trinket box. So to do that, we're going to use the rectangle tool, which is this one here. Now if it isn't, you can see next to these menus here there's a little arrow, and if you press on that you'll find some variations to the different tools that we use here. So we're going to be using the rectangle tool. So you can either select that, or the other way you can select, so I'm going to press this button up here to select away from that, is to use keyboard shortcuts. So some of the very common tools that we use have keyboard shortcuts, and it's as simple as remembering and then just typing the letter. So you can either use the rectangle tool, or I'm just going to press the letter R on my keyboard and you'll see the rectangle tool has come up. Okay, so down in this point here, this is called the origin. I'm going to left click and drag out, so I've got a shape something like this. I'm then going to release, and then I'm just going to type the numbers 220, 220, 12, and then press enter. And you'll see two things. Firstly, you'll see some sort of dark thing appear down there, and you'll see some numbers here as well. This is what I've just typed. Now don't ever try to click here and try to type in here. It doesn't work that way. In fact, what I'll do, I'm going to undo and redo that step so you can understand what I did. So down here is the undo button, so I'm just going to undo that. Okay, so let's do that step again. So I've got nothing selected at the moment. I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut R, click, drag, release, 220, 12, enter. Okay, so I can zoom in on this a couple of different ways. I can either roll my center mouse wheel and zoom in that way. And what happens is the mouse will zoom to wherever the cursor is. So if I have the cursor over here, that's where the mouse will zoom to. So it zooms to wherever the cursor is. The other way I can do it, I'm going to zoom right back out so that's almost, well, it's invisible, is down here. If I click on this little arrow over here to open up this menu, down the bottom here is a button called Zoom Extents, and it just brings you back into whatever you've drawn. So I'm just going to press that. There it is. Brought me back in a little bit close. I'm just going to zoom back out. Now the next thing I can do is I can orbit. So this is the orbit tool here. So I've got that selected now. So if I left click and move my mouse around, you can see how you can change the angle of your view. Okay. Now another handy little shortcut, there's also down here called a pan tool, but if you've got the orbit tool selected, all you need to do is press the shift key and it automatically turns it into the pan tool. And that's just where you can sort of move along the view and change it slightly. You can see how I'm changing with the pan tool. I'm sort of moving along, whereas the orbit, I'm just changing the angle of my view. Okay, so there's a little bit drawn already. Now this is one of the most fun tools in SketchUp, and it's called the push-pull tool. That's it here. So you can either left click on that and select it, and then if I go over here, I'll zoom in a little bit closer so you can see these dots appear. So when I hover over that and these dots appear, it means that's the surface that I'm going to push or pull. Now again, I'm going to just click away from that. The shortcut for the push-pull tool is just the letter P. So I'm going to use the shortcut. So letter P, hover over, click, drag, release. Then I'm going to just type the number 95, enter. There we go. Now again, we're just going to orbit around. So this is the side of my Trinket box. Now the sides and the ends of the Trinket box are going to be joined together with a miter joint. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create that miter joint here. So I'm going to just use my pan tool by pressing the shift key, coming down like this. Okay, so next useful tool is the tape measure tool, which is this one here. Again, keyboard shortcut is letter T, so I'm just going to type letter T, and I've got my tape measure. I'm then going to hover over here until I get this mark here. I'm going to click, and I'm going to move my tape measure along. See how that line there is red? I'm going to make sure that that line is red. So I'm going to move along, and then I'm just going to type the number 12, enter. Up here, move along, make sure my line is red, type the number 12, enter. Okay, now we're going to use the line tool. So that's it there, the pencil. Again, if you have a look in here, you can have straight lines with the pencil, or you can have squiggly lines. We want straight lines, but like everything that's useful, it's got its own keyboard shortcut, which is the letter L. So I'm then going to go click across to this point here, click. Up here, I'll just zoom in a bit so you can see a bit better. Click across to that intersection, click. Now remember, if you make a mistake, you can just use the undo tool down here. Now I'm going to use my push-pull tool, so keyboard shortcut P, hover over, I'll come in a bit closer so you can see, hover over, click, I'm going to go down until I get to the bottom there and it won't go any further, click again. Now I'm just going to come in up here, click, go down, won't go any further, click again. Alright, I'll just zoom back out so we can see all of this. Now you can see these guides here, they can get in the way. So I can do two things with that, or three things actually. I can select it so it goes blue and then just press delete. I've got the eraser over here, so I can select it with the eraser, just hover over it and it will go that way. The other way too, I'm just going to undo those two things. Sometimes you can end up with a lot of guides. So one of the things you can do is if you go up here on the search, you can actually find additional menu functions. So if I just start typing in delete, you can see here this thing called delete guides, and you can press that one and it gets rid of all of the guides in your model. Okay, so here's a side that is almost complete. One more thing we want to do with this is we want to put the housing in for the base, and we might as well do that sooner rather than later. So I'm just going to orbit around just so I can get a better view. This one's a little bit tricky, but you know, we'll work our way through it. Okay, so again we're going to use the tape measure, so the T, or we can just select the tape measure. We're going to get on this bottom edge here, we're going to go up, and we're going to make sure that our line there is blue. We're going to type 5, press enter. So that's 5 millimeters up from the bottom. The next thing we're going to do, the housing is 3 millimeters wide, so we're going to hover over the line. I'll just go in a bit closer, hover over the line up, so make sure our line is blue, and go 3, enter. Okay, now we're going to, we've basically got to push that back to get our housing. So we'll use the line tool again, and we're just going to go, so we can, you know, select the pencil, or shortcut is L. We're just going to go from there to there, from there to there. Make sure you've got that word intersection coming up. All right. Now, we're going to push this back, but you're going to see how we're going to end up with a little bit of a problem. So P for push pull, and our housing is going to be 5 millimeters deep. So I'm just going to left click on there, go back like that, and then just type 5 and press enter. But okay, well, let's have a look. Let's orbit around and have a look and see what our problem is. Can you see how, sure, it pushed it back in there, but it didn't push it on these angled edges here. Okay, so there's a few different ways we can fix that. First thing is, we've got these guides here and they're getting in our way again. So we can go back up to here and go delete guides, and they've gone. But the other thing I want to do is I want to change my view. I want to be able to see inside the model a little bit. So I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to type the letter X, and you'll see X-ray. We're going to turn that on. All right. So now we can see inside our model a little bit. So let's work out how we can now delete or sort of just take this little end bit out in here. So I can go, I can get my line tool and go L, and I can find that point in there, and I can continue along. See how my line is red and it says on face, so I can do that. Then I'm just going to press escape. Then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to do that again on face. Then I'm going to join that line to that line. Then I'm going to join that to that, that to that. Then, now I'm just going to orbit around a bit just so you can see what's happening. I'm now going to, and I'm going to come in really close here. I want to delete this line here. So this is where my eraser can come in handy, or if I just go in and click, I can just select it so that that line goes blue, and then I can just press delete. All right, so there we go. We've got that cut out. Now we've also got these lines here which are now redundant. We don't need them, so we can just press delete, delete. Now I've got this line in here. If you're very careful, you can select that and go delete. All right, so we've done it at one end. Now what we've just got to do, shortcut O, so I can orbit around and have a look at this other end. And also, if you had any problems following that, this will help you to practice it. Okay, we'll get in nice and close. L for line. So here we'll go, yep, on face, escape, left click again, on face, join these two together, join that together, join that together, and then we'll orbit around again. So shortcut O, orbit around, we'll select, well, I'll do the eraser this time so you can see the eraser doing it. Okay, so we'll delete that with the eraser. We'll come in really close so we don't accidentally delete something we don't want to. Delete that. We're in really close now, and we just delete that as well. Okay, so we'll go back out. What I'll do now is I'll go out, I'll come back in, so I've got a bit of a view. I'm just going to turn X-ray back off again. So I'll just type the letter X, turn it back off. So now we can see that side. All right. So that's pretty good. We'll just orbit around, have a bit of a look at it. Okay, so that's one side. Now the next thing we've got to do, and this is actually incredibly important, you've got to make sure that when you finish a piece, any sort of individual piece in SketchUp, you have to turn it into a component. And the reason being is if I decided to make the end piece now and butted it up against this, it'd be as if this was made from chewing gum and everything would stick to it. And we don't want that. Okay, so how do we do that? There's two ways we can do it. We can either do what's called a marquee selection and go from top left to bottom right over the entire piece. So it's left click, drag, release. So we've got the whole thing selected. The other way we can do it is a very quick triple click. So just listen for this. And we've got the whole thing selected that way. All right, I'll do a marquee selection again, like that. Then what we do is we right click, make component, and we'll call it side. Very good. Okay, so that's that done. The next thing we want to do is we want to make an end piece. So I'm going to orbit around a little bit. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my rectangle tool. Now this is the other thing too, because we've made this a component, we've now got to ask for permission every time we want to edit this or change it. So I'm about to draw a rectangle, which is actually going to be sort of over the top of this, but I'm not actually drawing on this. I'll show you in a second. Okay, so I'm now going to draw, just get a rectangle like this, and I'm going to put in the numbers. It's going to be 130, 12. So there's that piece there. I'm then going to use my push-pull tool to give it the height like we did with the side. So P for push, hover over, we'll go up, and now it's 95, but I'll show you a little shortcut here. We don't have to type it in. If we hover over here and have a look down in the bottom right corner down there, you'll see the number. It's 95 millimeters. So what it does, it locks to that height there. I can go further like that, but if I want it to lock on to the proper height, I just hover over that edge there. So left click, there it is. Now you might sort of go, hang on, you've actually drawn that on that. No, I'm going to show you something. I'm going to select that. See how I've just left clicked on it, and the whole thing has got these blue lines around it. Right click, I'm going to hide that. Okay. So again, we're going to orbit in. So same as before, I'm going to go T for tape measure, 12. And now I've got to make sure my line is green. T for tape measure, 12, enter. Okay. So we've got that. So again, as before, we're just going to put our little our miters on. So use our pencil, which is line tool. Shortcut is L. P for push. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. Maybe that's a little bit too much. I'll try to come back in a bit. Yep. Hover over that. Go all the way down the bottom. Left click again. O for orbit. So change the view. P for push. Hover over there. Click, left click. Down the bottom. Left click again. There we go. So that's our side. So again, we'll delete those guides. There's only two, so I'll just make it left click to select to make it blue and then delete. And then we'll come in down low. I just want to change my view a little bit with my orbit tool. So come in again. T for tape measure. We go up so our line is blue. Just type the number 5, enter. I'll come in a bit closer again, then go up 3, L for line, so we go all the way along, and then again all the way along, P for push, and we're going back 5 millimeters. Then we'll go up here to search, X for X-ray, so we'll turn our X-ray back on, and then I'll orbit around this end just so I can see a bit better. I'm just going to get rid of those guides again. So again, I'll use the erase tool this time. There we go, there's the guides. Our L for line. So we go along, we've got to make sure that line stays green, and it will go to on face. Press escape so it doesn't draw me a funny line at an angle. So select again there, make sure that line stays green and it says on face. Then we join that together. Then we can go from there to there, from there to there. And then I'll come in close so we can see what we're doing. Get our eraser. And we erase that. Then we can erase these. We'll go back out and we'll do the same up at this end. So we'll orbit around, get a view again, L for line. Here, make sure our line stays green, and then we get out that little on face, press escape, left click, on face, left click, L, draw that one, join that, eraser. Let's come in close so we don't accidentally erase the wrong thing. Erase that, that, and that. Okay, so we've got that one done as well. We'll turn our X-ray back off again. And I'll just go to zoom extents. Kind of got it. Okay, so now we've got to make this a component as well. I'll just orbit around and get myself a better view there. So again, I'll do the marquee selection like this. Right click, make component, and we're going to call it end. Now, I'm going to select away, and I'm going to change my view again, just so we're looking a bit up like this, maybe zoom out a little bit. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to go into search and go unhide. And there we go. We've got that. Now, here's one of the great benefits of SketchUp. We've got one end and one side, but of course the box itself has two ends and two sides. But instead of drawing them again, we just duplicate these. So here we've got our side. So it's a simple, we can just do copy and paste. Control C, Control V. There we go. So we've got it. We can see a little problem here though, because it's kind of facing the wrong way. Well, that can be easily fixed. I'm just going to change my view a little bit. So I'm just using my pan tool and I'm going to orbit around. Actually, I'll orbit this way. You can see that's facing the wrong way. So if I select it, right click, flip along, components green. There you go. You can see it's flipped. Now the next thing we're going to do is move it into the right place. So the shortcut for move is the letter M, but there's a trick with moving. You don't just get the move tool going and then just try to get that somehow in the right place. What you do, and I'm going to orbit around to change my view a bit, what you do is you work out a known point and look at where it needs to go. So you try to find yourself two known points, and I'll show you what I mean now. I'm just going to, if you have a look at this, I know that point there needs to join up with that point there, or that point there needs to join up with that point there, or that point there needs to join up with that point there. So if I'm going to move it, what I want to do is I want to select it, then type the letter M, then find a known point. So I'm going to use this one here. I'm just going to come in a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to left click on there. Now it's moving. And I'm going to go to this known point here and left click there. So now I've got it exactly. I'm just going to select away from it so you can have a good look. But if you go in and look at that, that's perfectly joined. Okay, so that's just moving around a little bit. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is O for orbit. We're going to do exactly the same thing for the end piece now. So we select it, Control C, Control V. There it is. While it's over there, let's flip it. So we've just got to right click, flip along, and in this case it will be components red. There we go. Now we can move it. So I'm going to go and grab, I'll zoom in because I think I'll grab that corner there because I know it needs to go to this corner here. So go there, there. There we go. So I'll just click away and then we'll orbit around. So we've got almost everything that we need now. The only thing we don't have is the base. So how are we going to do that? Well, that's pretty easy. So what we can do it a couple of ways, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to that X-ray view so we can see inside things again. Now we need to find out from this, I mean, I already know how big it needs to be, but from this, how big should the base be? So if I go right in close here and I'll orbit around to try to get a reasonable view on here, what I can do is I can use my tape measure tool to work out, so letter T, and if I can measure from that corner there to that corner there, that's 116 millimeters. Now the reality is when we make our base in the real world, what we're going to do is we're going to actually take 2 millimeters off that, so it'd be 114 millimeters, and that just gives us a little bit of room to adjust it in there. Okay, we don't want our base sort of jamming our sides out so it doesn't go together properly. So in the real world we're going to make it 114 millimeters, but for the sake of this we'll go 116. Okay, so we've got that. So the next one we'll do is O for orbit. We're just going to come around this side. I'll zoom back out a little bit. T for tape measure, and I'm just going to go from that corner there to that corner there. So that's 206 millimeters. All right. So then what I'll do, I'm just going to orbit around a bit again. I'm going to go R for rectangle. And I'm just going to draw out here a rectangle. So I'll go back, then go left click, move out, left click, and just type 206, 116, enter. P for push, and it's 3 millimeters thick, 3, enter. There we go. All right, for now we're going to need to keep the X-ray on because we need to place this, but before I do that, and it's really important that I do this, I better make this a component. So again, I'll just do a marquee selection like this, right click, make component, base. Okay, then we're going to move it. So again, M for move. And the easiest thing here is if I come in pretty close, I grab that bottom corner there. I know it needs to go there. Now looking at it, I think I might have actually miscalculated. Yep, it's not wide enough. In fact, I'm going to orbit around. It looks like we've got a bit of a gap. Don't know what I did wrong there, but this is how I can fix it, and it can be fixed quite easily. In fact, this is a good thing because I can show you now how to, we've got to edit a component. So again, what I'll do is I've just used my select tool, right click, edit component. Then I'm going to use my push pull tool, hover over there, and I'm going to bring it out. And I'm going to go in real close here. So you'll see I'll bring it out to that the size there of the base, so it fills the base. There we go. All right, that's done. Now, so we've fixed that up, but it looks a bit funny because we've got the X-ray tool on. So again, we'll turn that off. Let's go to search, X-ray, turn it off. We've got our base in. Looks a little bit bland at the moment, so let's give it some textures. So this is where we can start to get into some of the features over here. So there's various menus in here. We've got our components menu, we've got our materials menu. So I'm going to open our materials menu up, and if we go through here, you can see we've got some colors, but we can also search for lots of different kinds of materials in here when it comes up. Here we go. So let's have a look. If we go through, there's wood right at the bottom there. Okay, so let's have a look. So maybe for the sides of the box, we've got limited materials here, but maybe for the sides of the box we could have something that looks a bit like this. I'll just orbit around a bit so we can get to the other sides of it. Come back in. Now the base of it is going to be MDF, so we'll have a look at that and just see, you know, what could be a good material in here for MDF. Most of those have got a bit of too much texture in them. Let's go to say something like synthetic surfaces and see what we can see. Could be something like this one here. Maybe not. What else have we got? What do we got in 3D printing? Maybe something like that. Yeah, that'll do. Something like that. Okay, let's just move away. We'll just close that menu there. And we'll orbit. All right, so it kind of, you know, the textures could be better, but they're not too bad. We've got our box, our basic box. Now in the next tutorials, I'm going to show you how we can put our splines in, which is our reinforcing pieces that go into our miters. We're going to do that. And then after that, I'm going to show you how to design the sliding tray, and that's going to use finger joints. So we're going to do some finger joints. Okay, so you've finished that. What you want to do now is you want to go up here and go save and give it a name. So we'll call it Trinket Box. And put your surname there. And we'll go OK. And at the moment, it'll take a little bit of time to come up. At the moment, save it into your Google Drive, but at some point I will ask you to upload a screenshot of it to the classroom. Okay, so I'm going to put it in there in my Google Drive. Select. And up here you'll see saving. There it is. It's now saved. So that's the end of this tutorial. As I said, the next tutorial we'll look at the sliding trays, and then we're going to look at the lid design.